Right now at 10, funding cuts are made to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. What the reduction in workers could mean for forecasting severe weather.
A new report shines a light on problems with Wisconsin's educational workforce. We'll break down the numbers.
And it may be time to pick back up an old hobby. The health benefits from taking more leisure time. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 10. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Carlson.
And I'm Eric Franke. Thanks for joining us. Alert day conditions are in the forecast for the coming days.
With heavy rain expected to hit southern Wisconsin, but these overnight hours won't be too bad, Alex. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you absolutely have that spot on. A few showers are expected tonight, but this is not the main event that we're expecting tonight. The main event will get going as we go a little bit further into Tuesday afternoon, going on into Tuesday evening and into Wednesday. We're expecting, just as you said, heavy rain, some thunderstorms, strong winds, and some wet snow. All of southern Wisconsin will have these impacts at some point in time, and in Maine weather, we'll use Future Track to go through the entire storm. What we're expecting, though, in terms of water, there you take note of all the colors there, anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches of rain. The big part of the rain event is going to be Tuesday evening and overnight, where upwards of 1.5 inches to 2 inches of water could fall. That could cause some ponding of water because we have frozen soils, some minor river rises, and some ice jams not out of the question. Radar 3000, nothing out here right now, but those showers will develop rather quickly as we head towards the midnight hour. There you see those showers quickly develop and race across southern Wisconsin. By the time we get to 4 o'clock in the morning, they're to the east of I-39 heading over towards Milwaukee. Here in Dane County, let's track that overnight tonight. Midnight, 1, 2, 3, and then by the time we get to 4 o'clock in the morning, those showers are out of Dane County. But we got the heavy rain Tuesday afternoon that we're going to track using Future Track. The heavy rain Tuesday night that we're going to use Future Track to show then that rain transition over to snow, and we'll discuss how strong the winds are going to be ramping up on Wednesday. That's coming up in just a couple moments.
A lot to follow. Thank you so much, Alex. More than 800 weather professionals are without a job after the Department of Government Efficiency made cuts to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association.
Experts tell our Maddie Heimsch these cuts make for a gloomy forecast in the industry.
It's not something you hear often from the very people that spend their lives predicting disaster.
The rug was pulled out from all of us.
But UW-Madison Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences professor Jonathan Martin says mass cuts to such a specialized workforce
But it's a really complicated science.
will be a tough storm to weather.
The probationary employees are the ones who were cut, predominantly. That means the entire next generation of weather forecasters.
That next generation comprised of the very students sitting in Martin's classes.
That's why I take this personally. I've been coaching these young people for 30 years. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. It is a difficult field.
But Martin never thought his students' storm of uncertainty would come from government action.
Some of them just landed their dream job. It's a lifetime goal. And then to have, a clownish attempt, a sloppy attempt to sort of cut back on the government in its size for no reason at all I take that very personally, and it angers me.
And it's not just those up-and-coming weather professionals that will feel the impacts.
Day-to-day weather forecasting is so vitally important for the safety of communities.
The meteorologists we rely on for the latest updates,
Issuing severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings, that comes from the National Weather Service.
they rely on those federal workers.
And with reduced staffing potentially at the National Weather Service, that concerns me as we have a severe weather event in the forthcoming future, that they may not have the resources to have that tight communication that we currently have with them.
That's expertise that the whole Weather Service enterprise will now lose, and there's no reason for it.
That's why Martin says the cuts to NOAA make for a bleak forecast.
And it will have long-term ramifications that will all be negative.
Reporting in Madison, Maddie Heimsch, News 3 Now.
A driver is dead after a police pursuit crossed county lines ended in a crash in the town of Blue Mounds. Happened last night. According to the Wisconsin Department of Justice and the Division of Criminal Investigation, a state patrol trooper tried to pull a driver over on Highway 151 in Iowa County. This was about 6:30. The driver did not pull over, leading to that pursuit that was joined by an Iowa County deputy. The driver later crashed in the town of Blue Mounds. EMS responded, but the driver was pronounced dead at the scene. DCI now investigating the crash, says law enforcement is fully cooperating. Agencies involved added no law enforcement officers or members of the public were hurt during that pursuit.
Robert Crimo III has pleaded guilty to murder and attempted murder. This on the first day of his trial for the deadly 4th of July parade shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. Crimo opened fire during the 2022 Independence Day parade, killing 7 people and injuring dozens more. Police say Crimo confessed to the shooting, but then he rejected a plea deal last year. He is expected to get life in prison this time with no possibility of parole.
A new report from the Department of Public Instruction details an education workforce crisis in Wisconsin. According to the report, in the 2022-23 school year, there were 2,100 retirements compared to only 3,300 who completed educator preparation programs. Only 79% of those became licensed in the state. Just over 66% of those licensed went on to become employed here in Wisconsin. The state superintendent, Dr. Jill Underley, adds that the average teacher compensation package in 2023 was worth nearly $23,000 less than it was back in 2010.
The math isn't mathing. It's no wonder we're in a crunch. And when we lose teachers, we lose opportunities for Wisconsin children. We do not live up to our promise. But we know in Wisconsin we have choices. We can't and we shouldn't just shrug our shoulders. We can and must act, and act quickly.
In his biennial budget proposal, Governor Evers announced plans to invest more than $3.1 billion in funding for public schools throughout the state.
At the Capitol, Republicans in the legislature lost seats in this past election, which could make it harder for passing some bills. Under previous maps, Republicans had a 63-35 majority, and now it's 54-45. So when 3 lawmakers cross party lines, that means a bill passes by only 1 vote. Political science experts equate this to what they've seen nationally with the precarious majority speaker seat Johnson holds in the House. That means a small group of lawmakers can have a powerful voice.
Because the majority for House Republicans in Congress is so slim, it means that the Freedom Caucus can be very powerful. They can flex their political muscles. We may or may not see something similar emerging here at the state level, but smaller majorities definitely empower factions and groups within the majority party because it gives them leverage to try to make demands and try to get what they want passed.
We saw this close margin come into play with education bills, and this could have a huge impact in Wisconsin with major must-pass pieces of legislation like the state budget.
Well, today is World Hearing Day. Experts are sounding the alarm about how playing video games can cause hearing damage. According to a 2024 Video Gamer Safe Listening poll, on average, gamers ages 18 to 35 spend about 17 hours every week playing games in the U.S. Now, audiologists say gamers now often use earbuds, headphones, or headsets, which can put loud noises close to the ear, and that's why they're recommending using headphones that offer protection, like ones that are noise canceling.
This will help reduce the noise in the user's environment and really allow them to resist the urge to crank up the volume of the game to compensate for what's going on around them.
Doctors say children and young adults are most vulnerable to this type of hearing loss and may not be able to put into words that a sound is too loud. So it's important parents stay aware and promote hearing care.
This is a happy story. A new report finds that going back to childhood hobbies can boost your mood. A study published in the journal Frontiers of Psychology found adults who are highly playful are also more positive about the future, and they're more resilient in the face of challenges. If you're wondering, a psychologist with SSM Health here says there's not really any one hobby that's better than another.
Essentially, the benefits to having hobbies not only gives you something to do, passes your time in a positive way, but also can strengthen your brain against cognitive decline. It can also increase your mood and overall perspective. And it allows you to always be growing your brain and always challenging yourself, especially when there's such a variety of things to do.
And the study's authors say that's because the study was performed during the COVID-19 pandemic, so its findings may not fully apply to less challenging periods.
More evening training flights are being planned for the Madison area tonight through Thursday. The Air National Guard will be conducting flights. A spokesperson says the 115th Fighter Wings practices are set to wrap up about 9:30 each night. Now, this move is required to ensure that airmen are ready to operate in all conditions. The Guard will follow paths to minimize noise to those living near Truax Field.
An Arizona-based music duo has its sights set on performing in Madison.
And all your hope has blown as ashes around. Brick by brick, beat by beat, your heart will survive.
And And that was just a snippet from the band Ryan Hood. The pair has been named Best Group or Duo at the International Acoustic Music Awards. And they're currently on tour celebrating their 20th anniversary. Pretty cool. We sat down with the duo to find out what drives their music.
I think we both love music deeply. We both love to create. And there's a secondary element, which is that there's a lot of spontaneity on stage that's really fun and unique every night.
I think it's really special that the way that we interact with each other on stage sets a tone for being kind to each other, lifting each other up. We're not some bros who get up on stage and take digs at each other the whole time. We're constantly like lifting each other up and complimenting each other.
So Ryan Hood will perform tomorrow night at the Burr Oak in Madison. Coming up on News 3 Now at 10, President Donald Trump puts a freeze on military aid to Ukraine.
Plus, tariffs are set to go into effect tomorrow. The impacts these taxes could have on trade with Mexico and Canada.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
That heated meeting between President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to reverberate from Washington to Kyiv.
Friday, the visit by Ukraine's leader was cut short, as you've heard, after an Oval Office sit-down became heated. Today, President Donald Trump announced a pause to military aid to Ukraine. Officials noted that the freeze could be lifted if Zelensky shows a new commitment to negotiations to end the war. This, as Trump administration officials have continued criticizing Zelensky days after the blowout in the Oval Office.
What we don't have right now is President Zelensky saying, I am ready to take the steps necessary and have the conversations necessary and make the compromises necessary to end the fighting.
European leaders held an emergency summit in London on Sunday to rally support for Ukraine. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told reporters that he's working with France and a number of other nations to craft a plan to stop the fighting, which would then be presented to the United States.
The clock ticking as President Trump's tariffs are set to take effect tomorrow. Mexico says it's waiting to see if the Trump administration follows through with a 25% tariff against goods. Canada also getting slapped with a 25% tariff and a lesser 10% charge on its energy exports. And another 10% will be added to the universal tariff on goods from China. It could take another 6 to 9 months to really feel the effects on agriculture, toys, and home building supplies.
I don't think it's likely that these Chinese companies would eat all of the cost, but you do have to remember China is in a tough spot economically. They need to keep access to these U.S. buyers and consumers in order to get out of that. Where China could hit us, though, is with retaliatory tariffs. Under the first Trump administration, the agriculture industry was devastated by that. So that's a route they could go instead.
A recent report from the Conference Board shows consumer confidence is slipping over concerns about inflation and the trade uncertainty.
One of the world's biggest tech shows is underway right now. The annual Mobile World Congress kicked off today in Spain. This event draws thousands of exhibitors, many from China, demonstrating new products from entertainment to health to wearable tech. Also on display, the intense competition in the smartphone industry, with 1.4 billion devices expected to be sold globally this year. That's 44 every second.
The manufacturers will be leaning heavily on AI as a means to try and drive interest in devices, and we're going to see a battle royale, particularly amongst the Chinese manufacturers.
One tech company from Finland has unveiled its first smartphone specifically designed to protect teenagers. The Fusion X1 is said to give parents deeper layers of control to keep kids safe online.
Officials say they have responded to hundreds of fires in both North and South Carolina. Drivers faced a wall of wildfire smoke on a highway near Myrtle Beach today. Local fire officials expect the haze to stick around for another few days as they work to contain the fires. South Carolina's biggest wildfire in more than 15 years forced evacuations over the weekend. The governor there declaring a state of emergency and issued an outdoor burning ban. Heavy rain expected to come across southern Wisconsin the next couple of days.
And it's something we desperately need as well. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington has more.
Sure could. We've been talking about moderate drought conditions across much of southern Wisconsin, and we could use the rain or moisture in any form. Radar 3000, you're probably wondering, well, where is the rain? It's going to come. We'll use Future Track here to show that showers are going to rapidly develop near the Mississippi River by the time we get to 11 o'clock. And let's take this whole storm step by step. So we head towards 6 o'clock. That first band of showers, it's out of here. Maybe a sprinkle or two as we head from 6 o'clock Tuesday morning into the early afternoon hours. As we get into the mid-afternoon hours towards rush hour, widespread rain. Where you see the yellow, those could be a few embedded claps of thunder, heavy rainfall, strong winds out of the southeast, moving further into Tuesday night. Periods of rain and a couple of thunderstorms, and then keep an eye out as we head towards the early morning hours of Wednesday from La Crosse to Black River Falls to Decorah. A rain snow line rapidly spreading off towards the south and towards the east, knocking on the doorstep here from the Dells to just west of Madison to just west of Monroe as we get to 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. Heavy wet snow, Richland Center, Camp Douglas, Boscobel, and that rain quickly transitioning over to that heavy wet snow in Madison by the time we get to the noon hour on Wednesday. Strong winds out of the north-northwest. Temperatures plummeting from early highs in the lower 40s. We'll be in the 20s by the end of the day. And by the time we get to the 6 o'clock hour on Wednesday, those snow showers move off to the east, but the winds will not. Just updated here, we could be looking at maybe an increase in some of the water out of this weather system. Widespread 1, 2, maybe an isolated 3-inch amount over portions of southwest Wisconsin, Grant, Iowa, Lafayette counties if this rain pivots and lines up the way that Future Track was just showing, which could cause some localized flooding. We could be looking at ice jams, and we could be looking at some ponding of water out there as well because the ground, it's frozen right now. And speaking of frozen precipitation, perhaps 1 to 3 inches of wet slushy snow just north and west of Madison. More if you have any travel up towards the Eau Claire area or central Wisconsin, where they could be looking at 6 inches of that really, really heavy wet stuff. For areas Madison to the south and east towards Janesville, maybe an inch or less towards Janesville, unless that rain snow line or low pressure system tracks a little bit differently. Savannah will have an update for you in the morning. You want to tune in, and those strong winds where you see the purple here, it's everywhere. 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts roaring in out of the northwest Wednesday afternoon going into Wednesday evening. The winds alone are pushing wind advisory criteria, and that's alert day criteria in and of itself. But we got the heavy rain, the wind, some snow on the backside. That slushy snow could see some reduced visibilities across all of southern Wisconsin Tuesday going through Wednesday. And just reminding folks, we've been talking about the storm for some time now. Following the storm and crashing temperatures on Wednesday, back to normal Thursday, Friday, going on into Saturday and going on into Sunday before a big warm up is in the forecast for southern Wisconsin. 60s next week.
And still ahead in sports, why there's more than just state pride on the line in tomorrow's border battle. Hear from Greg Gard next on News 3 Now. After losing 2 of their last 3, the Badger men don't need any extra motivation to get back on track with March Madness on the horizon, but they've got some anyways. They'll go to Minnesota on Wednesday in pursuit of a Border Battle Season Series sweep and the program's 9th straight win over the Golden Gophers. Between playing for pride and playing for seeding, Greg Gard's guys will be ready.
We've recruited that area really well. That area's been really good to us. We've got really good players from there. It's important in terms of, Big Ten tournament seeding. It's important in terms of NCAA tournament seeding. If we can keep or get to that 2 line, quite frankly, you boil it down to your next game and you're competitive and you want to win, right? And then the other stuff that could happen from that is a byproduct of really, doing good things on Wednesday night.
But on Saturday, it wasn't so successful. Make that Sunday. They lost to Michigan State, and that loss can be seen in this week's AP Top 25 poll. The Badgers dropped 1 spot in the rankings from 11 to the 12th ranked team in the country. Wisconsin is one of 5 Big Ten teams ranked this week, joining Michigan State, Maryland, Michigan, and Purdue in the polls. Fresh off their 2nd straight WIAC tournament championship, the Pioneer men's basketball team is officially dancing. Platteville will host the first 2 rounds of the Division III tournament. Jeff Gard's squad will take on Grinnell in the first round of the tourney on Friday. The Whitewater women are also dancing and hosting the first 2 rounds. There has been no better team in the country this season than Wisconsin women's hockey. So it should be no surprise that when the WCHA announced their all-conference teams today, the list was littered with Badgers. Wisconsin has 4 of the 6 first-teamers, headlined by the nation's top 3 point scorers in Casey O'Brien, Layla Edwards, and Kirsten Sims, who are, of course, joined by the country's best defender, Caroline Harvey. And we finish on the football field where the Packers locked up one of their linebackers. Green Bay gave Isaiah McDuffie a 2-year, $8 million deal to stay with the team. McDuffie, who the Packers drafted in the 6th round in 2021, started all 17 games last season and was second on the team with a career-high 97 tackles. We'll be right back.
Tonight, please welcome First Lady Melania Trump.
Hello, Stephen. It is a pleasure for you to see me again.
All new CBS tonight.
Well, police in Oklahoma responded to a very unusual 911 call, delivering a toddler's request for emergency donuts. The Moore Police Department shared audio of the call made by the youngster Bennett. He used an old cell phone that could only be used to call 911 in case of emergency.
Seems a little shy to come out of the house there. The dispatcher is heard asking Bennett if he's going to share those donuts, to which Bennett says, "No, I'm not." The next day, the department had officers deliver Dunkin' Donuts, there you saw it, to Bennett's home. He got more than he was bargaining for there.
Oh my
but in
gosh.
the end, he got his donuts that he wanted.
Too cute.
He might be onto something there. I might need to try that sometime.
I don't know if you'll get the same response. Let's go to Alex. Final check of the forecast. You got a busy forecast.
Yeah,
coming our
busy
way.
forecast. That was the bright side. Now I've got the maybe not such the best news to give here. The heavy rain, wind, some snow, that's really going to amp up as we go into Tuesday afternoon, going into Tuesday night and Wednesday, looking at anywhere between 1, 2, there could be some isolated 3-inch amounts of water that could cause some localized flooding because remember the ground is frozen, 1 to 3 inches of slushy snow from Madison and points off towards the north and west, an inch here in town, less than an inch in Janesville. But again, it's the rain, the wind, the snow that's prompting the alert day conditions for Tuesday and Wednesday.
A lot to look out for.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 10.
Have a great night.